Stop, breathe, think. Give it a day, right? Accept what you've done. Sit down. Find a way to protect you, your colleagues, the field that you're in, and the university while being as honest as possible, coming clean. Mike never admitted that he lied. He never admitted that he lied. You guys are, in my opinion, being misled, okay? It's actually far worse. We're also going to be discussing what should have been done by Mike Israetel and by his PR team since the beginning. We're going to figure out what Mike should have did. So Mike, if you're watching this, take notes, bro. This is what you should have done. What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. Listen, this whole Mike Israetel thing is crazy right now. Don't mind me. I'm a bit tired. It's 4 in the morning. I didn't sleep well. So I figured I'd make a video for you guys. And the intent of this video is to basically try to clarify some things. I'm going to do my very best. This is a very layered subject that's constantly moving and constantly changing. And so there's tons of misinformation out there. There's tons of other videos out there claiming a whole bunch of stuff that isn't true. I want to try to get to make one video that essentially captures what's going on in this entire thing.
So I wanted to do an updated video with a full timeline of how this has gone down.
Well, looks like this freaking guy beat me to it. There's a lot of confusion, and the point of this is to basically correct some of that misinformation and get you guys on the right track, okay? We got a lot of people who are very upset out there, and rightfully so, right? Mike Israetel has seemingly been caught lying, and not only him, almost the entire science-based community has seemingly been caught lying about Mike's dissertation, the thing that basically cemented him getting his PhD. But there's also a lot of people that don't seem to really understand the gravity of this. There's a lot of misinformation. A lot of people are just genuinely confused. So we're going to break down exactly what's going on, what the problem is, and how this whole situation could have been avoided. I'm very tired. I made some notes. I'm going to be looking down at my phone, so don't mind me if you see me looking down. But we're not only going to discuss that, we're also going to be discussing what should have been done by Mike Israetel and by his PR team since the beginning. We're going to figure out what Mike should have did. So Mike, if you're watching this, take notes, bro. This is what you should have done. Now, let's first get something straight here. I got people coming onto my channel saying, Mike Israetel admitted that he lied. Joe, Mike Israetel admitted guilt. He admitted that he lied when he and Milo said...
We now know Solomon was looking at an accidentally uploaded incorrect rough draft. So I'll say this, I don't blame him for going hard on it because he has every reasonable idea to think this was the final draft. It wasn't. We have the final draft now in the link here. And so most of his critiques are just non-starters because the final just doesn't have most of those problems.
Guilt. He admitted that he lied when he and Milo said that the video that Solomon reviewed was actually not a rough draft. So he's admitting, because initially they were saying, oh, Solomon reviewed a rough draft. And now people are saying, oh, Mike admitted on Instagram that this isn't the case. Well, guys, Mike never admitted that he lied. He never admitted that he lied. You guys are, in my opinion, being misled, okay? It's actually far worse because he's acting like it was a mistake. He's not saying that he lied. He's saying there was a mistake that happened. So essentially, the big difference is he's not actually taking accountability for what's happening, which is what really is pissing a lot of people off. And again, there's a lot of genuinely confused people out there. There's a lot of people like, oh, I don't understand. Why are they talking about this paper from 12 years ago? Who cares? It's not a big deal. It's a big deal because of what we're about to discuss. What we're going to discuss, like I mentioned, is extremely multi-layered. There's a lot going on here. It's involving a lot of people. It's not just Mike anymore, okay? It's not just about how Mike screwed up. You got Solomon over here basically saying we need to recall Mike's PhD. That's huge. You also have to take into account that the university, East Tennessee State University, is involved as well. We can go even further. The entire sports exercise science field that Mike is involved in is also involved. It's also at stake. There's many people claiming that this isn't even a proper field, a proper science, a proper niche within the industry. And you also have Mike Israetel's ego involved. So again, multifaceted, multi-layered. This is not a simple thing, and that's why so many people are confused. Now, how are people responding? Well, like I said, there's confusion, but there's also people who are extremely angry, who essentially want to rip Mike's PhD away from him, rip him apart, rip the industry apart. And it doesn't look like all these people are giving any grace when it comes to this. Now, let's just jump back to make sure we get all the facts in order correctly. A person named Solomon Nelson found Mike Israetel's old PhD dissertation. Okay, this was from 2013. He broke it down in I think it was almost a 2-hour video showing all of the almost impossible errors and basically saying that Mike, as well as the university, as well as the science exercise field in general, should all be held accountable when it comes to things like this. Everyone has to do better.
If nothing else, I hope my critique highlights just how much the quality of research degrees can vary. A PhD ought to signal excellence, but in reality, the standard ranges from world-class to frankly embarrassing. By exposing the shaky foundations beneath some doctorates, my aim isn't to dismiss expertise. It's to prompt closer scrutiny of those who use the title doctor as a shield against criticism or a shameless marketing tool. Let's talk about what Mike's thesis reveals. A blueprint for how to look like an authority without being one. The playbook is simple. Enter a low-standard field at a low-ranked university. Produce work that wouldn't pass at a high-ranking institution. Then brand yourself as doctor and leverage your title at every opportunity for professional gain. Because whether your doctorate is from MIT in quantum mechanics or East Tennessee State University in sport physiology, the title doctor is conferred all the same. This analysis belongs to a larger project of understanding Mike Israetel's delusions of grandeur. It's a work that leverages the language of science to say nothing new, and its successful submission represents a systemic failure of academic quality control.
Now, the data in Mike's dissertation was ridiculous. It was showing things like athletes who were negative years old.
1/3 of the lowest performers was either older than age 41.2 or younger than -1.6. So they hadn't even been born. In table 4.7, 1/3 was either older than age 41.1 or younger than -1.3. Mike does this again on page 94 in table 5.4. As with tables 4.6 and 4.7, the standard deviations for the lowest performers are impossible.
And people who were 11 feet tall.
Here, 1/3 of the lowest performers was either taller than 3.459 meters, taller than any human ever recorded, or shorter than -6.1 centimeters. As to age, either they were older than 40.4 years of age, or younger than -1.4 years, meaning, once again, that they hadn't yet been born.
It was just riddled with errors. Now, my personal opinion, when this news broke, Mike Israetel could have just came out and he could have just admitted that his old paper sucked, that he made mistakes. But again, this is multifaceted. Now remember, this entire video is essentially alleged because this is a constant moving thing here, okay? We don't know where the final end of this is going to be. But essentially, because Mike didn't apologize and take accountability, he is perceived as lying, basically, when he claims that his screwed up paper that Solomon reviewed was just a rough draft that was accidentally uploaded to the university's website. Mike didn't even come out with a video himself. He went through a colleague who I really don't respect. You guys let me know what you think in the comments. But that colleague is Milo Wolf. Milo Wolf is basically, according to many people, basically only has a career because he's friends with Mike Israetel. So, of course, being a great friend, Mike's colleague, Milo, comes out with a video basically saying, guys, Mike doesn't get involved with drama, but I will do it for him. I'll get involved with the drama for him, and we're going to talk about it on my channel.
For context, Mike hasn't even watched Solomon's video. He doesn't respond to this kind of content as a matter of principle. So, what you're hearing today isn't his rebuttal. It's my investigation after reading the dissertation myself and then speaking directly with him.
I don't blame him for going hard on it because he has every reasonable idea to think this was the final draft.
Funnily enough, you got Mike on there speaking to Milo in a video call. So essentially, Mike does care about this stuff. Mike is responding, which makes them both look extremely stupid in my personal opinion. If you're not going to get involved, just don't get involved. Tell your friends not to get involved. But you're basically just going through your friend. But anyway, let's not get into that. And what ended up happening is Mike and Milo ended up releasing a quote-unquote new, supposedly corrected document, right? And they claimed that this newly released corrected document was, in fact, the final version of the thesis, the one that Solomon could not get his hands on because it was essentially not uploaded. Remember, they said the wrong document was uploaded. Now, the big thing here is that when Solomon reviewed the paperwork, the paperwork that Solomon did an amazing job breaking down and reviewing was dated August 2013. Mike's supposed final draft, the newer one that was just released after Solomon did the breakdown of the thesis, the newer draft, the newly found draft, was dated in March 2013. You see that? August 2013 and March 2013. So just like the figures in the charts and the tables that were in Mike's thesis, this created an impossibility, basically. Okay? So Mike's claiming that the final copy, the one they just uploaded, the newfound one, was basically made before the messy rough draft. This doesn't make sense on any planet. So you can see here that there was basically a botched cover-up, allegedly. This is what happened. This is what it appears to be, a botched cover-up. Now, allegedly, this shows that Mike's team, his PR team, everybody who's in cahoots with this whole scenario, basically created a new document, falsely dated, in order to try to trick people by suggesting that the original document that Solomon reviewed was the rough draft and the one they just released was the actual final paper. So in short, they're claiming that the final draft existed before the rough draft. Doesn't make any sense on any planet. Now, what ended up happening was this whole alleged cover-up failed immediately because there are glaring indiscrepancies with the timeline and people are not as stupid as what Mike Israetel would like to believe. And there are actually people who are smarter than him out there. And so Mike was basically forced to admit that the document reviewed by Solomon was the correct document after all, after his cover-up failed miserably. How did Mike do this? Well, he did it through an Instagram post. Let's talk about Mike's Instagram post. Mike's Instagram post was essentially an effort to admit the major mistakes while at the same time completely rejecting the accusations that the world was trying to pin on him. Those accusations, namely that he's intentionally lying and he's created forgery by recreating a document in order to cover things up. Mike admits in his Instagram post that upon review, the dissertation that Solomon examined was in fact the correct document. So he's taking accountability here. He's basically confirming that the video that Solomon made destroying his dissertation was actually correct, and it was not a rough draft after all. It was the final draft. Mike does admit that there were lots of errors, but he attempts to downplay those errors by basically just referring to them as clerical errors. Like, for example, misplaced negative signs, which, is a large majority of what's being mocked on the internet. Just stupid errors, spelling mistakes, things of that nature. What he's claiming to be clerical errors. Of course, when it comes to a dissertation like this, you shouldn't be making those errors. You know what I mean? Especially on a final draft. But, I digress. Let's get back into it. Mike is essentially, seemingly, with this Instagram post, attempting to basically change the world view, everybody's view of this situation from, oh, this was an intentional cover-up, to, oh, this was just negligence on my part, and it was a sloppy mix-up, and all this other stuff. So Mike's post confirms what the whole world knew already. Solomon did, in fact, review the final draft and not a rough draft, but he's also trying to do damage control at the same time by saying that the video he made with Milo was basically just a mistake due to sloppiness, rushing to address the issue that popped up after Solomon, created a wave on the internet, blew the world up with this information. He overreacted, he acted hastily. There was a genuine file mix-up because they acted hastily. They were under the impression that what he had was the rough draft and not the final. This happened 12 years ago, so it wasn't an intentional mistake, but it was just us making mistakes in general. Now, a big deal here is the collateral damage, right? We got Milo Wolf. We even got Jeff Nippard leaving comments. These guys, as well as a lot of the science-based exercise community here who like and respect Mike, they're all coming to his aid, okay? They jumped on board with, hey, guys, after Solomon did his initial video, hey, guys, guess what? Solomon was not reviewing a final draft. He was reviewing a rough draft. Solomon screwed up. They all jumped on board with Mike and Milo's initial response. Now these guys, including Milo himself, look like complete morons. Mike basically admitted, because he allegedly could not hide the fact of the cover-up, admitted, oh, I made a mistake. This is on me. It's not on any of these other guys. This wasn't intentional. But all these guys who backed him, they look like complete and utter fools now. And honestly, Jeff Nippard specifically, Milo, in my opinion, he kind of always looks dumb. With all due respect to him, I like I said, I really have trouble kind of respecting his advice, his channel in general. But Jeff Nippard particularly looks dumb, and I find this, I don't think Jeff is learning from his mistakes. Now, while I haven't seen Jeff make a video on this yet, he left a few comments, which of course he has a right to do, but he left a few comments basically defending this whole scenario, saying that, hey, Mike, I'm so sorry people are doing this to you. It's disgusting. How dare they? Things of that nature. And he looks like an idiot again. He just recently looked like an idiot when he was caught backing Greg Doucette, Julian Fitzgerald, and Hussein Farhat.
Someone like Hussein gets a lot of fake natty accusations online since he has a huge social media following. And yeah, he has a super impressive physique, even in real life, so I get it. But just like me and pretty much every other fitness influencer, he does understand the power of lighting, posing, and the illusion of bodybuilding. Most people don't realize just how much of a difference lighting can make in how enhanced you look, especially when you're lean like Hussein.
I'm in the gym all the time. It's like somebody's like basically saying, nah, you didn't put in the work. You just stuck a needle in your arm. But
right.
I'm like afraid of needles. I hate needles like so much.
See, that's how you know he's not enhanced, because he said you put it in your arm and you don't inject in your arm.
He was backing them, saying, oh, they're not fake natties, guys. This is proof here that they're not fake natties. I'm going to give them a blood test and whatever, blah, 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 blah. ended up finding out that Greg and Hussein put out a video claiming that Hussein is in fact actually on gear. They were trying to trick the world, just looking for clicks, essentially, wasting people's times, acting like children. So they put this video out, and then Jeff looked like a complete moron, right? So anyway, Jeff seems to be poking his nose into stuff where he shouldn't be doing. You think he'd learn. You think he'd be more intelligent than that. It's obviously not the case. So at this point in time, the bad paper from 2013, the dissertation that Mike wrote, it's not really the biggest issue at this point. The biggest issue is that Mike, Milo, any of his supporters were kind of allegedly caught lying or just caught looking like idiots while only Mike and his team were lying. It's either or. It could go both ways. We don't know if they were all in cahoots with Mike or if they are just blindly following him because they're buddies of his, right? So it could go either way. But either way, the main issue is the fact that now all these guys look like fools, and all these guys are potentially being looked at as liars trying to cover up Mike's mistake. So all these guys' reputations now are on the line to a very large degree. Mike's reputation, I mean, it's kind of destroyed, at least right now. And so in essence, because Mike lied about something so ridiculous where he could have just been like, yeah, guys, I screwed up. You know, Solomon did review the final draft, blah, 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 blah. Because he lied about something like this, now a lot of the world doesn't trust Mike. A lot of the world feels like Mike is not a dependable source of accurate information. And can you blame anybody? No, you really can't. Couple that with all the dumb things that Mike has said in the past that doesn't make any sense, and you have the perfect storm to basically destroy Mike's credibility. But even worse, not only Mike's credibility, as mentioned, all of his colleagues who backed him on this. So let's do a quick recap because this was confusing. Mike essentially allegedly lied and committed forgery to cover up his bad paper. Mike is claiming that there was a mix-up in the papers due to pure negligence. We have the conflict over dates, where Mike was claiming that the final paper actually came out in March, when meanwhile the one that Solomon reviewed, which Mike claimed was the rough draft, really came out in August. Then Mike tries to explain away that discrepancy by basically saying that there was a file mix-up and he got confused at which one was the original, which one was the rough draft. And then we have Mike basically throwing Milo and everybody else who supported him through this whole ordeal under the bus to save his own reputation, to try to fix the lie, the alleged lie that ended up coming out. Mike tries to basically say that Milo has zero blame in this. Everybody who supported him basically has zero blame in this. He is to blame for the entire incident, which is all he can really do at this point. But honestly, these guys' credibilities, although they probably weren't very high to begin with, now they're even lower. Now let's talk about how this problem could have been avoided in general, okay? If Mike sat down when this whole story blew up and did a little bit of meditating, a little bit of woosah, calmed down, breathed, acknowledged the fact that there's people out there who are actually more intelligent than him, the fact that the general public is not actually stupid, he could have then came clean and just admitted, because he was going to get caught anyway, he could have just admitted to what's going on. And he could have taken full responsibility at that time when this whole thing first blew up. That he would have been respected if he did that. Sure, he would have taken a hit to his ego, but he would have been respected. At this point, he's not very respected because he is appearing like he is a liar, and that's not a good thing. Now, the problem and the reason likely why Mike did not do this, when this whole thing blew up, come out and be like, sorry guys, it's true, I screwed up. The reason why he likely did not is because then the University of Tennessee would have ended up looking like the university would have looked like complete garbage, which, to be fair, they look like complete garbage now. They look like complete garbage still. regardless. But at least it would have been more of a clean transition to looking like garbage. Like, yeah, some people made some mistakes. We're sorry about this, whatever. So, no. Now the university's caught up in all this drama, and now they just look even worse than if he just came out and said, guys, sorry, it's true. What Solomon said is correct. I screwed up. But like I said, it's extremely multi-layered. You got Mike. You got the university. Because of the university's reputation, Mike can't come out and just, apologize essentially because he's got to protect them. So what would have been the best possible outcome if he actually did do the right thing, went back in time and did do the right thing? He would have owned the fault immediately. This would have minimized lying, right? Maybe he'd get a couple of fibs in there, right? Minimize lying, essentially. Admit to that terrible work. Essentially, start by stating that Solomon Nelson is correct. My 2013 PhD dissertation was unacceptable. It had fundamental errors in the data and, in any reporting that's in there, because there's so many errors. I take full responsibility for submitting this poor quality of work, essentially. He could have framed this as a personal failing due to rushing the process of the writing process, 12 years ago. Just framed it like, look, yeah, guys, I screwed up. I rushed it or whatever, made up some excuse. And then in order to try to protect the university, he could have basically just said that, yes, they made a mistake. They signed off on it. This was 12 years ago. They signed off on it. Everybody was in a rush. Something got slipped by somebody's eyes. People make genuine mistakes. Nobody is perfect. But this is not reflective of this institution's current high standards, right? He could have said that. And, yes, the work was accepted. This horrible work was accepted 12 years ago, and it's basically like an example of a lapse in quality control that I allowed to happen. He could shift the blame. Yes, they actually went and pushed it through, but it's because of my negligence. I never should have handed that in the first place. I put them in a bad position. And basically, this is not a reflection of who they are today or in general. This was just an isolated incident. All this could have been framed differently if only he sat down, breathed for a couple minutes, and thought about it. He could have then tried to protect the industry that he's in, the niche that he's in, the science-based exercise community, and said that the errors are on me, not representative of the science-based community. Not all research is flawed. There's many people who hand in great dissertations, try to protect his colleagues. And this is my failure, Mike's failure, and this situation should not be used to dismiss the hard work that's being done by the thousands of honest people who research in this field every day. And then just go on to state that essentially he's trying to correct the issue that he started, make an announcement saying that he's working with the university in order to retract the flawed document, replace it with the newly corrected version for their archive. Or maybe they just leave it there as, hey, this is the flawed document, we're not changing history, something like that. But try to show that they're trying to correct things instead of like covering things up. Initially, when this whole news broke, Mike froze the ability for the public to see his dissertation on the university's website. So you can see this is very shady, trying to stop people from seeing what's going on rather than just full transparency. And sure, full transparency with a couple of lies sprinkled in there because, you kind of have to, but it could have been more transparent. He could have did this in a much better way. If he did something like this, most of his integrity and the university's integrity and the science-based backers of the community would have remained intact. And the thing that really pisses me off about Mike, and mostly his PR team, is because, dude, have you guys never been through, a firestorm like this before? Why did he not, in that same speech that I just told you he should have made, come out and say something along the lines of, everybody, I made a huge mistake. As I said, it's my fault, not the university's, not this guy, not that guy. It's all on me. But you know what? Honestly, guys, since 2013, when the thesis was written, I have taught exercise science as a professor at multiple universities, including Lehman College, Temple University, the University of Missouri. I have a professional consulting business where I serve as a sports nutrition consultant for the U.S. Olympic Training Site in Johnson City. I'm a frequent speaker at scientific conferences. I'm the co-founder of Renaissance Periodization, RP Strength. You know, he's always talking about it. Here at RP Strength, we have evidence-based training. We have diet solutions. We're trying to change the world and help others. We have all these people raving about our work. RP Strength is a company who's provided $150,000 in research grants to laboratories and universities worldwide to enhance the research in fitness, fat loss, muscle growth. I'm an author of so many books in the field, including The Renaissance Diet 2.0 and Scientific Principles of Hypertrophy Training. I'm a competitive bodybuilder, even though I suck at it. Admittedly, Mike says that he sucks at being a competitive bodybuilder, but he still did compete, right? So that's something. I'm also a professional Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu grappler, which he always talks about in his videos, and all this other stuff. So essentially, by not lying, by coming clean in the beginning, by stopping and thinking was the number one. Stop, breathe, think. Give it a day, right? Accept what you've done. Sit down. Find a way to protect you, your colleagues, the field that you're in, and the university, while being as honest as possible. Coming clean. Give Solomon the props he deserves for doing the hard work. Thank him for exposing this and saying, you know what, you're right, Solomon. Bro, we need to do better as a society. Guess what? Tennessee State, they're saying the same exact thing. This was an isolated incident for them, but they're saying the same exact thing. We never should have screwed up. I apologize. I take full responsibility for putting Tennessee State in this predicament in the first place by handing in a garbage final copy. Own what you did. That could have changed everything for Mike. Now, he's been allegedly caught lying. He's been allegedly trying to cover up that lie. His colleagues look like crap. The university looks like crap. The scientific field in general of which he is in looks like crap. And I'm wondering if he's going to come back from this. I'm wondering what's going to happen next. Greg Doucette is having a field day over there. We're going to have videos for months upon end. and so I'm just thinking, like, bro, if you just chilled out for a few minutes and thought this through and were not so impulsive, none of this would be happening. Anyway, you guys let me know what you think. This was a long video. I know a lot of you guys love that. You guys asked me to do long videos. I'm happy to be here despite the fact that it's like, again, you know, it was 4 a.m. I hope I can get some sleep. But I hope this video made sense despite the fact that I was tired. And I hope this helps clarify what's going on and also clarify why it's so important, why everything that's going on is so important. It's not just some stupid thing that's going around on the internet. No, guys, this is serious because, you know, again, multifaceted, multi-layered, a lot going on. You guys let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you for watching. Thank you for the love on this channel. Really appreciate you all. And I'll catch you guys at the next video.